Hello guys, and welcome to my new YouTube video for today. And today's video is, yes, you guessed it, you read on the thumbnail, Final Fantasy IV, should it have a remaster? And first, I'm going to tell you about my story, how I got introduced to Final Fantasy IV, and then the remake. Why should it have a remake? Okay, so I had a DS emulator, joystick emulator on my phone. I looked up on Google if there was any Final Fantasy games, and the first one to pop out was Final Fantasy IV. So I'm like, oh, this OG SNES game looks cool. So I got it. Fun. Phone broke. So I told my friend, well, we walked together all the way to GameStop for 30 minutes. I have been walking for 30 minutes. MC reference. So yeah, in high school, one day we walked for 30 minutes to GameStop, and there it was on the DS cabinet. Because you know how some GameStops, I think all GameStops have like a cabinet with like all the DS games. So it was expensive, $30. And then I bought it. I was like, it's worth it. So I bought it. I played it for a bit on the DSi XL, which still works, by the way. And then I was like, oh, the quality between the phone and the DS version are like, well, the DS version is better. The no lag, no nothing because of the emulator. So anyway, now that that's done, let's get to the why should I have a remake story. Um, I haven't finished the game yet. Let me just tell you that I rage quit when I died too much, and it's been years since I played it. But I will come back to it. I will come back to it. Anyway, uh, I go to YouTube, right? Bro moment. I go to YouTube and listen to the soundtrack, and all comments are saying, this is the most beautiful title from the franchise, from the OG SNES games. Because let me get this straight, and I think you hardcore Final Fantasy fans know this, but Final Fantasy 1 through 6 is the OG SNES Final Fantasy era, and then from 7 and on is the PlayStation slash Xbox era. So anyway, um, yeah, comments are saying like, "Oh, Final Fantasy IV is like one of the best titles in the SNES," because fans are saying that from the OG SNES games, um, the best titles are Final Fantasy 2, 4, and 6. So that's where I got the idea. I'm like, hey, if Final Fantasy 6 should have a remake, then I should do a Final Fantasy 4 since I got the game for the DS, and I'm planning on continuing it one day. I think tomorrow. Who knows? Anyway, for the story, people are saying, "Oh, it's a beautiful story, like a love story, but also like a like an actual story with a bit of romance." Because of Rose, Cecil's not the coward. He's not the Cecil I know and love. So anyway, I don't know if his name is Cecil or Cecil, but I'm just gonna call him Cecil. So the other comments on the soundtracks, they're saying that Cecil is one of the best protagonists from the SNES era because he's relatable. I mean, he doubts himself, he regrets some choices he did, and he feels like he cannot be forgiven or something. That's what I think. That's what I read on some comments from the soundtrack. So I'm saying if Cecil is like a great character, then and he's relatable, then he's like popular. And let me tell you, some hardcore fans consider Cecil to be a top character. He's right there with Terra from Final Fantasy VI. If you haven't seen my Final Fantasy VI, should I have a remake? Go watch it right now. And up there with Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII, obviously. So, and also like his friend, the guy that has like a dragon for a helmet. People call him like the Saint Seiya or something. That he liked Rose, but then she met Cecil, so he's pretty much like the jealous friend. Like, what does Rose have Cecil? I liked her first. What the frick? So anyway, it's saying that Final Fantasy IV has a great story and great characters, and that it should have like not necessarily a remake, but like that they will want to play it again for the DS, and like for nostalgia and for the great story. And for the final part, if Square Enix is smart enough, they would be like, hey, after we finish Final Fantasy VII Remake, we should do what Capcom is doing and remake some of the original titles from a beloved franchise, which is Final Fantasy. You have Capcom with Resident Evil, you can have Square Enix with Final Fantasy. So maybe they might say, hey, let's remake some of the SNES titles, because uh, Square did remaster Final Fantasy 3 and 4 for the DS, but they're just 3D remakes, obviously from like mid 2000s or something. So if Square Enix is smart enough, if Square is smart enough, they would be like, let's remake some of the original SNES titles, how Capcom is making Resident Evil. So if they do decide to remake some titles from the ground up, I would say to remake what the fans say, Final Fantasy 2, 4, and 6. Well, since today I'm talking about 4, then it would be cool because, like, I know that Final Fantasy 7 is getting, like, a ton of nostalgia and stuff, but for the other titles from the franchise, Final Fantasy 4 and 6 are, like, really popular to the hardcore uh, 80s children who were kids in the early 90s or like teenagers. And if Square does decide to remaster some classic SNES Final Fantasy titles, obviously it's gonna be for the PlayStation 5. We do not know the release date, but here's my theory. Right now Sony is just giving us like the power on the inside, but for the design, the release for the design, it's either gonna be late 2020, so like by October or November, or early 2021 for like the design. Like, hey, PlayStation fans, here's the design for the PlayStation 5. So if Square Enix does decide to remaster classic SNES Final Fantasy games, they should remake Final Fantasy 4 because this was the topic of the video. Should Final Fantasy 4 have a remake? And Cecil is like a very. He may not be very popular anymore, but he's considered like a top character with, again, Terra and Cloud. So if they do remaster the game or games from the SNES era, and I've already said that like 3 times or 4 times, PlayStation 5. And there you guys have it. Thank you for watching my video for today. And until next time, guys. So these were the points: characters and story. Cause and again, people are saying that Final Fantasy IV is one of the top titles from the SNES era. And there you guys have it. Again, until next time, guys. Peace.